Yeah,
Okay.
there you are. It's great to have you on the program again, Perry. This is episode 5 of Tuesdays with Perry. Perry from Pensacola, Florida. How are you today, sir?
You know what? If I were any better, it would be illegal, even in Ron DeSantis's eyes.
So I'm going to get started right away. I want to ask you a little bit about what's happening with this Mar-a-Lago raid by the FBI. The FBI raided Trump's residence Mar-a-Lago, and the judge ordered that the affidavit with the probable cause for such a warrant will be released. It's obviously going to be heavily redacted. What do you expect from this affidavit, Perry?
I expect to do nothing more than yawn and sigh. We already know about this judge. He is no fool, however. He can see what the public outcry is. So he's got to do something to restore what little faith people have in him as a magistrate. And so he's going to, as you just said, he's going to release the affidavit. We're not going to know who the rat fink is. We're not going to know what their potential motives are. We're not going to know what information it was they were looking for. I mean, we've heard everything from wanting to know what Melania had for breakfast to nuclear codes is what they've been searching for. So we know this is nothing more than an attempt, and this is what I think I spoke to last week. This is nothing more than an attempt to not use information or evidence in search of a crime. And I'm sorry, beg your pardon. To prove a crime, it is looking for information to show a crime even existed. And this has been the tactic of these jackbooted thugs for the past, not 6-7 years, going all the way back to 2015.
Yeah, right.
And
exactly. Yeah, and I don't believe that there's going to be any information in the affidavit, and the affidavit is what's shown to the grand jury to allege a crime. So I'm very curious to see if we're even going to be able to parse out from the heavily redacted affidavit whether we're going to be able to parse out the any alleged crime whatsoever. I imagine it's going to be vague also. So I wanted to move on to your governor recently made a speech, I think it was last Tuesday, where he said Florida is where the woke go to die. And he was talking about in the school system how he's trying to fortify the school system against CRT and other woke policies. And he said, well, Florida is where the woke go to die. Did you hear about that speech last week, Barry?
You know, I did hear about it, but I did not read about it. So there was very little detail that I know other than the governor is continuing to do what it is the people of Florida elected him to do.
Right. The democracy. Isn't that democracy?
Democracy in action.
Yeah. Right.
And you know, not to shift gears too much from what we're talking about here, Rudy, but you know, I am sick and tired of hearing about I'm using this as a generalization when national politicians say our democracy. We don't live in a democracy, folks. We live in a representative republic where our officials are elected through the democratic process. Again, something no longer taught in the schools because we're too busy teaching kids that they don't have to be the type of gender God assigns to them. If we get back to what, and this is what I think the governor is trying to do. The governor is trying to empower local school boards. We have 67 school boards because we have 67 counties in the state of Florida. And he's trying to empower those school boards to write the curriculum that they think best suits the educational needs of the children in each individual county. And that's what I believe he was trying to convey with regard to where wokeism goes to die when it comes to free Florida, because that is not the purpose of wokeism. The purpose of wokeism is to homogenize everyone and to make everyone the same. And that's the reason why you see the outcry of parents around the country, but specifically in the state of Florida. They want to be empowered, as they should be. And that is exactly what the governor's trying to do.
All right, so I just want to interrupt you there, Perry. We understand what Governor DeSantis is trying to do, and that many governors and other politicians are trying to do to push back against postmodern socialist tactics and indoctrination. But the media chimed in slightly, not soon after that speech. The New York Magazine, their reporter, Jonathan Chait, wrote an article entitled, "Florida is where free speech goes to die." And even Fox News reported on it. And although Jonathan Chait admitted that the far left has gone too far, he still sided with them. So my question to you is, because right after that, a judge a couple days ago, or it's actually a few days ago now, has ruled against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis's move to keep woke indoctrination out of the school. And a lot of us have surmised, including Fox News, that it's probably because of this New York Times article, or excuse me, New York Magazine article. Did you read this article? And what do you think about the media's role in forcing branches of the judicial, liberal branches of the judicial, to rule against conservative politicians, conservative governors?
Well, the only thing I have to say to that is, are you surprised? I'm not.
No.
I've been experiencing this since the media 41 years ago called Ronald Reagan a stupid old man with old ideas that don't work anymore. I'm used to it. As a matter of fact, and I see a lot of this in DeSantis, no problem. You think you're going to stop me, Your Honor? Nope. Because the bottom line is, you may say I don't have the authority to stop CRT, but every school board in every one of the 67 counties of Florida does. Now, does that mean each one of the 67 counties aren't? Of course not. You think Miami-Dade is going to stop that? Do you think the liberal bastion of Palm Beach County is going to stop that? Of course not. But I'll tell you what, my county is going to step up. As a matter of fact, I'm helping, and this is something else that I want to convey to your listeners. It's so important for grassroots politics. It's called retail politics for a reason, because you literally have to go out and talk to people and shake their hands and tell them what your platform is. Right. I'm doing exactly that for a woman who's running for school board in my county. She is Puerto Rican by birth. She's American by pride. She loves, eats, drinks, and sleeps the United States of America. And she is horrified by what type of school system is going to be left for her newborn grandchild if someone like her doesn't step up, run for office, and start making changes.
Right.
And I told her, I will be there for you. I am putting out campaign signs. I am talking to my neighbors. I am trying to pull people together so that she can give a stump speech in front of even 20 people. You'd be surprised how much empowerment we are getting from Governor DeSantis, and that's just one example.
Yeah, that's great. It's time for the people to really put your money where your mouth is. Don't talk politics, do politics. So my problem here is obviously with the New York Magazine and Jonathan Chait, as Fox News brought up, that this was just, he admitted everything the far left was doing wrong, but he still sided with them and trying to allude that conservatives it's that old, stupid narrative that conservatives are going to bring about tyranny, and it's going to be the Handmaid's Tale down there in Florida, and that you're not going to be able to speak or whatever. And that's not, we all know it's the parents' right to determine what the school system is talking to their children about. Correct. So I have a problem with the mainstream media taking something, influencing the courts with their biased propaganda. And even in this case with Jonathan Chait, he admits what the left is doing wrong, but he still sides with them. And then he has this judge apparently side with them also and ruling against the governor. So I was once part of the media too. So we all know that the media product is a partisan product, most of the media. And the problem is that they claim that it's not partisan, even though, like with the organization I worked at, they started talking about activist journalism and that it was good that they got laws changed and stuff like that. So far goes the nonpartisan objective journalism. So one of the worst purveyors, I believe, in media is the news director for NBC News, Chuck Todd. He has got to be, while claiming to be nonpartisan or impartial, he, like all the anchors do, asks leading questions, he's interviewing somebody and he finishes their answers and then agrees with them, and it's a Trump bashing festival or a Republican or conservative bashing festival. And there's no air of partiality or impartiality whatsoever. I heard, a little bird told me that you actually know Chuck Todd's parents. Is that true?
Actually, it is. It's an interesting story. I'll try to make it as brief as possible. Several years ago, before I moved out into the hinterlands and away from society, we had a local pool and spa store that we would buy our Traeger grill pellets from and our pool supplies. It was an interesting couple. The husband was rock rib conservative, and the wife didn't profess, but certainly in conversation exuded the examples of liberalism. And it was a second marriage for both of them. They had been married for over 2 decades, and her one and only child happened to be from her prior marriage, and his name, I came to find out through conversation,
was Satan.
Was Chuck Todd. And she and I were talking about the media in general. This is before she announces that her son is Chuck Todd. And I said how biased the media is, and I gave plenty of examples. And she said, well, I beg to differ with you. My son is in the media, and he would argue with you that there's no such thing. And I said, really? Well, who's your son? And she said, well, do you know who Chuck Todd is? And I said, well, I most certainly do. She said, that's my son. I said, really? I say, well, that explains a lot. And shortly after that conversation, when I gave examples to her how biased his questions are, whether it's a Democrat versus a Republican, and I gave examples to her. I don't recall which they were because it was during that time frame. She stopped having conversations with me every time I came into the store after that meeting. So very much like a liberal, when they can't defeat your argument, who's the bigot? Oh, that's right, you are. Right. And that's what happened.
Oh, wow. That is amazing, because I don't loathe many people, but I do loathe Chuck Todd, because like I said, I worked in journalism, and for him to be cheerleading the Progressive Party is just really disturbing. And to see him day after day after day, I mean, the problem with Chris Wallace is he tried to do it. He tried to, help the conservatives. Yeah. And then finally Fox's audience said, that's enough. That's enough of Chris Wallace. And so he got dumped. So thank God we got rid of him. But we still have to deal with Chuck Todd and Maggie Brennan, who I tend to watch Maggie Brennan more, but because I can't deal with Chuck Todd. But
well, yeah, before we leave this part of our conversation, I just want to remind you and your audience. Do you recall the question, that leading question that he made of then candidate Trump about, well, Mr. Trump, if on election night you're proven to have been defeated, will you accept the results? And that question was never put to Hildebeest.
Right.
Why wasn't it?
Yeah.
Trump answered better than I could have.
Oh, sure.
And that goes to show how sharp he is. He said, I'm not going to say yes or no. I don't know. Let's see how it works out.
Right.
But the question was never put to Hildebeest. Why not? There's a perfect example of his bias, and that came from his father, Mike Wallace.
Well, of course.
So,
yeah, they were trying to set him up so badly, and he was honest, and Trump was honest and said, "Hey, they're going to cheat. They cheat. They cheat."
Right.
And all we have to do is look at the recount from 2016, the Jill Stein recount, to see that Trump was cheated out of tens of thousands of votes of fortification. And then they realized that they can't fortify votes. And so Jill Count, the Democrats are saying to Jill Stein, stop the recount. It's showing fraud. Hey, Perry, it's been such a joy talking to you again. We'll have to hold it the rest off till next week, but I'll be looking forward to that. And it was really great talking to you.
Rudy, it is always my pleasure.
Right.
Thank you for the time, and we'll talk again soon.
Right. Thank you very much. Great. Oh, that was great. You gotta love that. Gotta love that stuff. I can't stand Chuck Todd, man. He is just the worst. And I was a fan of Tim Russert, the guy that came before him, that died after asking two presidential candidates if they belonged to Skull and Bones. But I can't stand Chuck Todd. He's so blatantly partisan. He's a cheerleader for the left. He's an enemy of the right. Well, most news anchors are. Don't forget, they're mouthpieces of corporate power. All right, that's it for Tuesdays with Perry this week. And we'll wait till next week to talk to Perry again about Florida news and what it means to be a conservative, or just not to be a progressive these days. All right, see ya. I'll see you tomorrow.